Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Camo Chef for Get the Fun Outdoors. Or fun outside, whichever works for you. Today we're going to make something really strange when you first hear it, but it's also really awesome if you like spicy things. We're going to make apple fruit leathers onto the dehydrator with jalapeno peppers. Yes, spicy and sweet go together, and boy, it is delicious. So, this is my dehydrator. It's a Cabela's drawer model dehydrator. It cost me around $100. Obviously, your own personal dehydrator, follow the manufacturer's instructions. The setting I'm going to have this at is about 135 for fruit and vegetables. And that should do it. It's a 6-drawer dehydrator, so 4 drawers. Probably 3 trays will be used for this recipe of making some fruit leathers. We have the fruit leather already here that I made 2 weeks ago. It's nice and dry and crispy, and you can see the flakes of jalapeno in it. We'll set that aside. So this is quite simple. I buy my applesauce when it goes on sale. I prefer unsweetened applesauce, but if you want to use sweetened, it's not going to matter other than the flavor. And we just pour it on to our fruit leather trays. If you don't have fruit leather trays for your dehydrator, I highly recommend you getting them. I've heard that you can use wax paper and put it down and make sure it comes up the edges. I've done that. It doesn't dehydrate as fast and as efficiently, and it's okay. But I would suggest, 6 of these little trays cost me $20 at Cabela's. They go with the dehydrator. They're well worth it. I'm just going to take a spatula and make this nice pile of applesauce, thin out evenly. You want to keep it about 1/8 of an inch, but if you're slightly thicker than that, that's okay. It's just going to take longer to dehydrate. If you go too thin, it's not too bad either. It just tends to turn into more of a chip than a leather. The chips, sometimes I let it go too long overnight in my dehydrator. I end up with a chip, and I save the chips and we mix them in our oatmeal and let them hydrate slowly, and they end up giving an extra flavor in your oatmeal when you're out camping as well. I will vacuum seal these for summer camp. It's now late winter, early spring in our area. This tends to be the shoulder season where I keep myself busy prepping for my summer camping trips and fishing trips. I usually make this a little thinner, but today I also have plans to use my dehydrator for a few other things. And I'm around all day, so I can just keep an eye on this. Now, one of the final steps I do, and I prefer to do, and this is probably from my baking training when I worked in restaurants, is I just bang out the air bubbles. And that just makes it go a little more evenly. We're going to do the same on this tray. Just want it good to the last drop. I'll probably rinse those out into a smoothie later, what's left in that jar, and not waste any of it. Often I don't even get my fruit leathers vacuum sealed for canoe trips. My grandchildren come over and visit, and they end up stealing them for school snacks. How spicy you like it depends on much pepper you use. I'm partial to jalapeno peppers, much spicier than that. The average person is not going to enjoy it very much. If you want to use Scotch bonnet, or if you want to put hot sauce on it, I didn't mean to rhyme there, but you're more than welcome to do it and take this to the next level. You notice my jalapeno peppers kind of got a little dehydrated sitting on the counter. Ideally, you want to use fresh peppers, but again, if you're on a budget and you want to grab the reduced peppers, quite often you see these in the grocery stores on the reduced rack. These will do fine as long as they're not too rotten and you cut out the bad parts. I take the seeds out. You're more than welcome to leave the seeds in for more flavor, more texture. I'm going to take the veins out because I find they take longer to dehydrate. You notice I'm wearing latex gloves. I prefer to do that because I do have a few open areas on my skin, and I also am famous for touching my face after having peppers juice on my hands, and nobody wins, but I cry a lot. So I'm looking for a minced texture of about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, and I find the last recipe, 1 jar of applesauce for 1 pepper seems to be the right portion. But again, depending how spicy you want it, and depending on the texture you want, add more pepper, add less pepper. Don't add a pepper, add hot sauce. Funny thought, is you're getting your greens while you're out there canoeing in the bush. I don't think it qualifies as a lot of greens, but at least you're getting some. So I'm just going to divide this into quarters and sprinkle them evenly onto the leathers. I try to spread it out, not let them touch, kind of the same basic principles in your manuals for your dehydrator tell you. You don't have to be overly concerned if they kind of bunch up, but you want to spread that heat out, that flavor out. So I'm just going to spread that out a bit. Because they're touching, they're going to take longer to dehydrate in there. Having one pepper left over after making some jalapeno poppers and a jar of applesauce ready to go for dehydrating, kind of put two and two together. So that's how I came up with this, totally by accident, necessity, not wanting to waste. I also found that when I did take a bite, even if there wasn't a pepper in it, there was a bit of heat in the applesauce. So I think through the dehydration process, those oils kind of spread out too, and you end up having a really different kind of flavored snack than what you're probably used to. I'm just going to put these in my drawer. Now, most of the time for these fruit leathers, they take between 6 and 8 hours, depending how much I have in here. And like I said, I'm doing other things today, so these will be probably a full 8 hour. Around hour 4 with this particular model, I find the back end will dehydrate faster and the front end kind of stays soft and mushy. So around halfway through the dry time, I'll flip them around. And often too, depending how full I have it and what's in there, if they're just on the plain racks with more air circulation or using the fruit leather trays where there's less circulation, sometimes the top drawers and the bottom drawers don't get enough dehydrating going on. And I flip things around too. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's something you just have to come back to and check about every 2-3 hours. One other thing I'm going to do today is some black beans. And I just have a can of black beans I got on sale. Open them up, strain them, rinse them a few times, let them drip dry a bit, spread them out thin and even. I use these fruit leather trays too with a can of salsa and do the same thing. Dehydrate them into a leather. You kind of play around with the recipes depending how much salsa and sauce you like and things. So that's all even. They're not stacked on top of each other. Oh, I lied. There's a couple. There we go. I'm going to put that in. Like I said, temperature set at 135. Close it up, turn it on. Sit down, have a coffee and relax. Let the machine do all the work for you. And there we have some trail snacks and a lunch almost ready for canoeing this summer. So this has been running for about 8.5 hours. We had a 1 hour power outage, so I had to fire it back up again. So for a total time for about 8.5 hours, we'll reveal our apple leather with jalapeno. And as you can see, the leather turned out perfectly. So there we go. So what we have on our fruit leather trays is a very crisp leather, which is not a bad thing. With a nice distribution of the green, lovely jalapenos. And here's the second one. A little less jalapeno for the little less spicy lover. And yes, our black beans we did at the same time are nicely overdone on purpose. So as you can see, these are very brittle. I will grind these down to a powder in my mortar and pestle. And this powder, depending on the texture you want, will rehydrate into a paste, which makes a nice black bean paste when you're doing wraps, and it's an extra way of getting protein into you. And obviously, when you look at a bean, compared to the powder, you're going to have a more condensed packing system, more area, same weight, but you're just saving the volume in your food pack. Pretty simple. Dehydration. It's the way to go for canoe tripping and backpacking and outdoors in general. By all means, comment about your modification to what peppers you used and how it tasted, or if you just used a pepper sauce like I suggested. Thank you.